Hi, turn to the Externals as we explore below topics and more. Puerto Rico blackout after explosion, fire at power station. Foreign companies merge Ike at Beijing's Behest under new China law. Texas, Arizona governors ask all other states to send police to U.S.-Mexico border. Biden admin plans to defend tighter exemptions for religious school. Pentagon diverts most border war funds to overseas military construction. Welcome back to the Externals. I'm your host Katherine Dang. We'll be posting exclusive episodes daily you can only find in the Externals. So we invite you to like and subscribe. And let's start today by talking about Puerto Rico blackout after explosion, fire at power station. Puerto Rico was left in the dark Thursday after a large fire caused power outages throughout the island, leaving hundreds of thousands of residents without electricity. An explosion and subsequent fire at power firm Luma Energy's Monacillos power distribution substation in the Puerto Rican capital, San Juan, caused the widespread outages, the Canadian company said. The fire caused major blackouts across the entire island. The situation is under assessment and work is being done to restore the system. Utility company Luma Energy said on Twitter, noting that restoration efforts would continue overnight. At the height of the power outage, at least 700,000 Puerto Ricans were without power and at least 400,000, more than 1 in 10 residents, still had no power late Tuesday, the Associated Press reported. And now, let's move on to another topic. Foreign companies must act at Beijing's behest under new China law. Chinese passed a new law that orders all individuals and businesses in China to apply sanctions the regime launched against foreign counterparts, but they don't need to honor foreign restrictions. Moreover, the law came into effect on June 10 when the regime's rubber stamp legislature approved it without a third reading, which is prerequisite under China's legislative law. The Chinese rubber stamp legislature passed and released the anti-foreign sanctions law on June 10. The law requires that all individuals and organizations in China, no matter their citizenship or registered status, must execute the sanctions that the Beijing regime launched. Furthermore, Clause 12 of the law states, no organization or individual can enforce or have to enforce the discriminatory restrictive measures that foreign countries use against Chinese citizens and organizations. Chinese citizens or organizations can file a lawsuit against foreign entities who are complying with foreign imposed sanctions and ask them to stop the infringement and pay compensation for Chinese losses. And the third news we're going to discuss about. Texas, Arizona governors asked all other states to send police to U.S.-Mexico border. The governors of Arizona and Texas said that other states need to deploy available police or law enforcement to the U.S.-Mexico border to assist border patrol agents as they deal with a surge in encounters. Due to the surge of illegal migration, Governors Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey wrote in a letter Tuesday to other governors that additional manpower is needed from any state that can spare it. With your help, we can apprehend more of these perpetrators of state and federal crimes before they can cause problems in your state, the two wrote. They did not make mention of states sending their respective National Guard forces to the border, as troops sent to the border cannot legally make a trace. At the same time, Abbott and Ducey took aim at President Joe Biden's administration and accused him of fostering policies that encourage illegal immigrants to come to the border, saying they were forced to declare a disaster and an emergency in their respective states. Abbott, meanwhile, announced Thursday that Texas will conduct a comprehensive border security plan to crack down on illegal border crossing in the state, which could potentially include the construction of the state-funded border wall. And next, we're going to talk about Biden admin plans to defend tighter exemptions for religious schools. The U.S. Department of Justice stated in a court finding that it intends to defend an exemption for religious schools and universities from an anti-discrimination federal law. The finding comes in response to a class action lawsuit brought against the U.S. Department of Education by a coalition of current and former students from over 20 colleges associated with evangelical Christianity and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The students, identifying as LGBTQ, allege that they experience discrimination at those schools because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. The Religious Exemption Accountability Project, REP, and LGBTQ advocacy group filed a lawsuit on behalf of the students in March in an Oregon federal court. The suit seeks to challenge the application of the Title VIII, which outlaws sex-based discrimination in institutions that accept federal fundings except those controlled by a religious organization. 3 Christian universities, along with the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities, have petitioned to intervene in the case under the presumption that the Biden administration would not defend the Title VIII religious exemptions. The Justice Department, however, declared in the June 9 court, feeling that its interests coincide with those of the Christian institutions and that it will represent those interests adequately. At this stage of the litigation, it is premature to conclude that the federal defendants would neglect to raise or be ill-equipped to develop effective arguments in support of the religious exemption. The department said in the filing obtained and reported by the Washington Post. And finally, we're going to talk about Pentagon diverts most border war funds to overseas military construction. The Biden administration announced Friday that it returned more than $2 billion in military funds that former President Donald Trump had diverted to the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border barrier, while the Department of Defense (DoD) simultaneously announced that those funds will be used for overseas military construction projects. Instead of border wall construction, the DoD said Friday that the $2.2 billion will be used for 66 projects across 16 countries, 3 U.S. territories, and 11 states. A memo released by the Pentagon reveals that the majority of the funds, or around $1.26 billion, will be spent overseas in places including Hungary, Japan, Italy, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Germany, Romania, Spain, and other countries. In late April, the DoD announced that it canceled all border barriers construction projects that were initially appropriated for other military projects. During President Joe Biden's first day in office on January 20, he issued an order that terminated the construction of the border wall. And that's all for today, my friends. What do you think? Let me know below. If you like what you heard, don't forget to share it with at least one of your friends, because everyone deserves to know the truth. Thanks for tuning into this Stanlands. I'm Katherine Dang, and see you next time.